Attention, everyone. This is an emergency broadcast. The unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake. Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go, so that you can make the sound we broadcast as loud as possible.
Your horror movie podcast with a morbid affection for the macabre.
I am your huggable animatronic murder bear, Will Liam. And joined with me always is the girl who watches silent jazz tap films on Hulu.
That's accurate.
Amanda Lane also.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Been working on my Charleston.
This episode is going to be a little bit of an experiment. This came up while we were looking up for new ideas for horror movies to review. We came across the Huluween 2018 short film competition. What I had realized is that that's not a wholly uncommon thing for sci-fi, or for horror, but sci-fi too, I was thinking. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of short sci-fi films, a lot of short horror films, and horror also likes to do anthologies. Like the ABCs of Death. Happy Holidays, I think, is the one that made me think of this, because it's apparently a short horror story for several holidays.
Mm-hmm. I think Trick or Treat is also a horror movie that does that and that it is several different miniature stories that occur within the same world on the same night.
Exactly. And I think it really works. That's in why Black Mirror works so well, because Black Mirror is sci-fi horror.
Little self-contained stories.
Yeah.
And it tweaks the genre when it's a shorter story.
Well, I think that sometimes that's all you need. Like, a good example is there was a short film called Turn Off the Lights, or Don't Turn Off the Lights. Mm-hmm. And it got very, very popular, and it was this super spooky, maybe 5-minute film of just playing with lights on, lights off, shadows, creatures in the background, and then jump scare at the end. And then once Don't Turn Off the Lights got very popular, they gave it a full-length movie that just wasn't very good. And it just, like...
Did it just not stand up to the original because just speaking from my knowledge of film writing from college, is just that the shorter the film, like, the harder it is to, like, condense everything down. And when you're trying to take something that is shorter and then blow it up into a longer film, it's really hard.
Don't Turn Off the Lights, really, like, all it was that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with creating an art piece that is 5 minutes long. It doesn't work as a 2-hour movie, because, like, they had to give it background and add story to it.
Yeah,
and have,
that's the hardest thing.
You know, 5 or 6 versions of the same jump scare. Like, there's no reason for it. You got it in one.
With genre films, it's really hard to take a short film and expand upon it, because all of the things that work really well in a condensed version, you have to draw out so far that unless you are, like, completely rewriting it entirely over from scratch, it just doesn't work so well.
And so these shorts also, I could not, for the life of me, and which is why we probably won't do our standard format of Autopsy, Coroner's Report, could not find a budget for them. I do know that the prize for the competition was $10,000. Now, I don't know if Hulu supplied them with, like, a budget to make them, because the stuff they did was not cheap. Clearly.
Yeah, no, clearly. These were
shorts,
beautiful.
They
had
a lot of
them
the
were
budget.
on location, and a lot of them had, like, animatronic or physical effects, and I think that last one that monster in Carved definitely looked like it was CGI to me.
It couldn't have, because I don't know a lot about the industry, but I do know that terrible CGI is still more expensive than amazing practical effects.
Okay.
Because that's the industry at, like, today.
That's fair.
So that was, I almost guarantee you that was mostly practical. But
either way,
their budget couldn't have been more than $10,000 if that's the prize money.
Right. Well, exactly.
I would have bet more on these 5 minutes or not. I would have bet more on these films. But The first one we watched, which is what grabbed my attention, is...
Our attention, actually, was...
The Hug.
The Hug is definitely up there as far as one of my favorites is concerned.
I think it's my second favorite. We can rank them all at the end. I think that'll be
well, once we talk about them all, we'll rank them. But
so
the Hug, it was pretty good up there.
The plot is just Five Nights at Freddy's, which I like.
More or less.
Oh, well, it was exactly Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, they don't own spooky Chuck E. Cheese allegories. I think Are You Afraid of the Dark owns that.
That's fair.
I think they invented it.
Yeah. The basic plot of the Hug
they're
is
a crappy Chuck E. Cheese. Kids.
It's like Pandori's Pizza Palace or something. Pandori's Pan Pizza Palace.
Yes.
That's important because the pizza comes out in a deep dish pan.
And there's this. It's a mess. It's it's run down. The manager's overwhelmed. There's kids cheating at skee ball to get a bunch of tickets. And then when the kid picks up his skee ball tickets, he says, "Now I want a panda show."
Yep. And he's a little brat because it's his birthday.
Yeah, he's got a crown.
And he's got one of those cute
Clearly
little gold birthday crowns, and he's an asshole kid.
Striking satire of royalty.
I want a show now.
But he goes over to this guy that's shutting off the like ride operation panel thing for the animatronics, and he says, "I want a panda show," and he's like,
"Sorry, kid, Pandori's going on break. It's dinner time.
Even robot pandas have to eat." And the kid's like, "It's a dumb show. It's my birthday.
It's just a stupid robot. Let me take a birthday."
And he's like, "No," and he locks the panel, puts the key away, and then the pizza arrives. So the manager feels the need to hand out pizza, I guess, which was a weird.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean, I think it's because of like the rowdiness of the kids and the whole like it's a pan pizza thing and.
Oh, because the pan pizza. That's what means parents can't distribute pizza.
I don't know. I mean, it's literally comes out in the pan that it's cooked in, so I guess it's probably still hot, and I'm putting way too much into this just to
they needed the guy to walk away, so he bumps into the little kid, and apparently this kid is a Oliver and Company level pickpocket, because he just snatches those keys right out of that.
He's got real good sleight of hand. I bet you he's gonna be a magician someday.
Well. So he walks over to the panel, and he's like, "Dumb bear," and he turns the thing on. Curtain opens, and the super creepy, everything from your nightmare animatronic pandas.
With, like, a flesh-colored face instead of your usual, like, fluffy panda face. It was nasty.
And he says, "What's your name?" And he says, "Aiden." And he says, "Hey,
that's a beautiful name.
Do you want a
panda show?"
And he's like, "Yeah." And he's already super creepy.
Not to mention the fact that he looked when Aiden looked back at like his friends, the robot panda's eyes flicked from Aiden to his friends and then back to Aiden.
He was.
So it's like, oh shit, this thing is like you know already that something's
no one's
up with
paying.
it.
Well, it's a horror movie, but But no one's paying attention to Aiden either. He's all alone now, and he says, "If you want a show, first you have to give me a hug." And Aiden cautiously and slowly walks up to the bear, gives him a hug, and then the bear arms slowly wrap around Aiden.
And he's just like, "Aw, that's sweet." And then Aiden's like, "Okay."
Yeah, a couple beats go by, too long.
Now, this is awkward now. Like, give me a show. Let go.
And then the panda starts crushing him. And Aiden's like, I can't breathe. Claws come out of the bear hands and stick into the kid. You see the
face.
Yeah, well, even before that, which I liked, the curtain starts to close subtly. Yeah, the bear's eyes
roll back in his head,
so he gets like bloodshot eyes.
Yeah.
The curtain starts to close. Some of the kids kind of maybe look up, but they don't really notice. And then the curtain shuts.
Well, don't forget the fact that the entire
his face falls off.
Right.
And we get a shadowy nightmare face for a brief second.
Yep.
And the curtain fully closes, and then some of the kids start to notice. They hear like muffled screaming. The manager looks up, and this was one of my favorite parts.
He sees that the lights are on,
and that the curtain's moving, and the look on his face it's not confusion, it's horror, and like he knows what's happening.
Yep.
He picks up the pizza serving, like the
cutter,
pie.
Like, the pie
spade. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, basically.
And as a weapon, he knows which means this has happened before, which is why it's Five Nights at Freddy's.
And it means that when he said dinner break, he knew exactly what that meant. That robot fucking was gonna eat something.
No, well, I think he knew that. I don't know.
I think he knew the robot was hungry and needed to eat.
So anyway, the manager pulls open the curtain. The bear's face is back to normal.
And it's got a huge grin.
And he kind of leans forward, and the last shot is just the kid's hand, bloody, shooting out of the bear's mouth. Yeah, which is a cool, like, because he couldn't have really gotten him in there. Like, I like that.
It was awesome. It was very good.
Which is also what happens to you when you lose Five Nights at Freddy's. You get jammed into an animatronic and die because there's still animatronic parts in it.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's, like I said, they don't own that, but I think it was a healthy homage.
Yeah.
And it's just I love creepy animatronics.
Yes, agreed. They were super spooky.
And then this is one of the ones we watched the behind the scenes on and got to see that the face was animatronic, but the bear itself was an actor.
Yeah.
Who did such good, because it moved.
It was amazing mime work.
Yeah.
Like, it was really great.
Dancing, like robot dancing.
Yeah.
The
but
stop.
like the mime work and the body movements that he did were incredibly robotic looking, and like this was clearly a very skilled actor who, like, had studied clowning and mime and, like, body movement.
So, I guess we'll go over them all together, but I loved this one.
I did, too.
What was the second one we watched?
The second one we watched was Lippy.
Right.
Which was not very good.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones that I feel like they had a bigger idea for and then had to parse it down to 5 minutes because... Yeah. It seemed like there was a lot that didn't get covered in exposition.
Yeah.
That would have been better if they had more time.
And, like, I kind of got that it was supposed to be absurd, and and that's the one that first made me feel like, oh, this is kind of like Black Mirror. Because that one, it's very specifically, there's one called, like, White Bear. It's not quite this, but it also ends in like this horrible game show, what's happening kind of thing. And yes, this movie definitely suffered from being only 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So these two teenagers are shoplifting.
They leave the dog outside first. That's important.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. That's what they brought up with the thing with the dog.
Yeah, I knew she found it, which I also thought she like went to their house and got the dog.
No. They tied up the dog on the outside. That was the first shot, was before they went into the pharmacy. So they tied the dog up outside.
Leave the dog out. Then they're shoplifting. The security guard's like, come with me, and takes them back to a creepy elevator. Now, I liked this part because I used to be a security guard or loss prevention. And essentially, loss prevention is low-grade kidnapping. So I was like, yep, this is kind of how it works. You just tell people to do things, and they do. And you have no legal power to do that.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if it was, like, actually in a shopping mall.
Yeah, I thought it would be.
When it started out. Because it was definitely not in a shopping mall. It was, like, in an outdoor plaza.
And then the underground facility was so big.
It was weird.
I think the idea was shopping mall, and they
probably didn't get access to that sort of a location, is what happened.
So they go down to the basement. She takes them to their loss prevention office. Immediately, they dump out everything they stole, and then she starts. And
she goes kind of crazy.
Yeah, right off the bat.
I mean, she had this like wicked weird thing going on with like her face and her behaviors the entire time. But she immediately is just like, oh, I like Lippy too, like referring to the brand of the lipstick.
Yeah, and starts
smearing it just all over her face,
around her lips.
Which I did not expect that it to actually
to come around like that.
I didn't think it was actually going to be lipstick. I thought from the shot that I saw, that was just the image for the movie.
Preview, yeah.
I thought that she was going to cut off their fingers and then use their finger as lipstick with the blood on the other end and smear that on her face.
So then she, without saying that, so even with the time they had, they didn't do any like
good
dialogue.
Exposition. Yeah.
So she pulls out garden shears and just starts doesn't even say like, one of you needs to cut off your finger to get out of here. She just sort of implies she's just like, snippy, one finger is all it takes. And then like, I was like, you didn't even tell them. Like,
yeah, and they were like, well, that's weird. That's crazy.
Yeah, and those, I think, we're going to, I guess, tear into this one. Those, the two girl actresses were not very good.
They were not
They
great.
really didn't freak out at any point.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is crazy. We won't do this. Like, I'm going to call the police or call my parents. You can't do... Like, they were very like, oh, well, no.
And then they totally went along with it at the end because... It seemed as though they were supposed to have been there for a long time, but they didn't do a good job at showing the passage of time.
Yeah, so they cut to a security camera feed. So they're like, we won't do that. And then the one girl's like, I gotta give my dog water or it's gonna die, which it's been out there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, I don't care, just do the thing.
I've always been a cat person.
That's what it was, a dumb line. And shuts and locks the door, which they don't even check. They don't try to escape at all.
Yeah.
And
they just sort of sit there.
Yeah, and then it cuts to a security camera feed of them with a time on it, which I thought it would cut away and cut back.
Yeah.
You know, just to be like, okay, it was 7 o'clock, now it's like 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. They just do the one shot. So they're tired and laying their heads on the desk, but other than that...
the other girl is, like, asleep, for sure.
There's no indication.
Yeah.
And they don't do, like, what this would have worked in, say, a TV show or a movie... is they would have had that long, this is just Saw. This is the first Saw movie.
Basically.
And they would have had that discussion between the two guys, starting with, this is crazy, then, I need to get out of here, you need to do it, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they just play the dog over the loudspeaker.
Getting hurt, it sounded like.
Yeah, and so the girl's like, just cut my finger off so I can get out of here. And she's like, no. And she's like, okay. And just,
And then cuts the other girl's finger off.
With no emotion. It's just like, sure, snippety snip, and then the other girl kind of screams.
And is like, what the fuck?
Hey,
and then
my finger.
And then takes the snippers and then gets the other girl's finger, so they're both
And she doesn't really care. And I get that they're English, so the emotion's foreign to them, but they could have cared a little bit.
I thought they were Australian.
I thought they were English.
Oh.
So they were just stiff upper lipping it. But maybe because when they were outside, there was no sunlight, so I just assumed.
That's fair.
And then as soon as they do, the wall behind them opens up to reveal an
that
audience
they're on stage
of mascots and clowns.
Uh-huh.
And then the woman from before...
It's like the 4-finger stage or whatever thing.
Yeah, there was little hand cutouts, or big hand cutouts with pinkies missing.
With their pinkies missing.
Which they never said pinky either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of missing information.
Yeah.
The security woman's there, but she's dressed as a clown, and her red lips are the red lipstick, which I guess...
And it's like glitter now.
Kind of a tie-in, but not really that made any sense. And then the audience starts chanting, "One of us," or "Join us,"
or like
right?
something like that. It's like you're part of it now.
They
and
held up their hands, right?
Yeah, they all have their pinkies missing.
I couldn't tell because they never did a close-up. It was just the audience silhouettes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they
only
had...
They held up their hands.
Yeah.
So, but and I get the ending was supposed to be weird and absurd. That's not lost on me, but I don't. It wasn't long enough to
warrant,
if it was a half hour, or 23 minute episode of something, and it was a little more serious, and you just thought it was this insane security guard doing something.
Yeah.
And then there's the big reveal that it was like the
complete absurdism.
Yeah,
that would have been terrifying. But no, I get what they were going for, but I think that the fact that they only had 5 minutes with which to accomplish their goal was a real detriment to them in the end.
Yeah, I think
their idea was too big to accomplish in 5 minutes.
This was what we were talking about. I think this was a big story that they tried to condense.
Yes.
And I don't think it worked.
And it's really hard to do that.
And they didn't have 2 good actresses.
Yeah. But no, I definitely think that if they had had 15 minutes, a half an hour, they probably would have been significantly more successful than they were.
I don't know where, and I assume they all had the same budget for this competition.
I'm sure.
Again, I could not find out what their budget was. But I don't know where the budget for this one went. I guess renting clown costumes and masks?
And the space, probably.
Yeah, the stage space and the doors moving. Because other than that, they were in a store, they were in a room, maybe renting a cargo elevator for 30 seconds. I don't know. I'm
not sure. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, maybe they pocketed it. Maybe this was just an embezzlement plan. Busted wide open.
Ooh.
So the next one we watched
was... Well, I had one more thing to say about Lippy. Do you think that they called it Lippy because of the 2D teenagers giving lip to the...
I guess, but they still didn't... that didn't even happen enough.
Okay.
Yes, I think...
Because that was my thought, was that it was supposed to be like a play on words thing about them being Lippy and then like the lipstick being the thing.
I think so, but I think, again, whatever their intention was, they just didn't... They had so little time and so much to do, they didn't nail any of the stuff they wanted.
That's fair.
And maybe that was the clown's name. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, like, they just
I mean, I bet it was the clown's name.
Yeah, they couldn't cover enough.
Yeah.
The next one we watched was the Gillymuck.
I love the Gillymuck.
Now, this
it was so cute.
One of two that I think we can't give a biased review to just because it was done in a style of storytelling that we love so much.
Yeah, we are automatically biased. This one was one of my favorites too.
So,
like, I loved this one.
It was these 4, right?
Yep, there were 4 Girl Scouts.
Yeah, 3 of them were together. The other one was seated separately to already show her, isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And a scout leader, I don't know what they're called.
Scout leader.
Scout leader is crappily telling a bad camp
horror
story.
Movie. Yeah. Or horror story,
And she screws it up and everybody laughs at her, and then she tells the story of the Gillymuck.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't remember the story.
It's not a particularly long story, but the way that she tells it makes it seem as though she has come across the Gillymuck before.
Mm-hmm.
But she essentially just says, have I ever told you girls the story of the Gillymuck? The 3 bully girls start laughing and like making fun of the fact that it's a stupid name. Right. And she's like, oh, I wouldn't laugh and joke about the Gillymuck if I were you. The Gillymuck lives in these very woods and is a very sensitive creature. You do not want to anger the Gillymuck.
And then one of the jerk girls spooks the weirdo. I say that because I am the weirdo.
I loved that little girl. She was also the only girl who was wearing her Scout's uniform.
Right, because she's the one that cares.
Yeah, exactly.
So she hears a noise
out in the woods
and wanders off.
And it's like, it's not funny, you guys. I know you're trying to scare me. Meh.
Yes.
And she inadvertently spooks a furry little creature.
A great little furry puppet.
It kind of reminded me of like an Oscar the Grouch looking kind of a thing.
Yeah, it was like a long...
With like the big head and the long neck. And
it looked like a mushroom almost.
Almost.
With a little skinny body.
Very fluffy with big eyes.
Yeah, with big blue eyes.
Yeah.
Because in the preview it looked almost CG, but it wasn't. It was all
it was entirely, yeah.
And she makes friends with it. She thinks he's cute.
Beautiful. Even. She's like, oh, are you the Gillymuck? You're beautiful. And she brings it back to the campground in her backpack.
Mm-hmm. And she shows it to the girls the other girls in the tent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, this better be good. And she takes it out and they're like, what
oh
is
my
that?
God, that's disgusting.
Yeah,
look how gross it is. Is that supposed to... Do you think that's the Gillymuck? Ah, ha, 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 ha. You're both so stupid.
And its eyes glow white. And little fangs start to pop out, and then it opens his big mouth and just cut away.
Cut to black.
And the Scoutmaster wakes up and she hears a ruckus.
Yep.
And she goes over to the
tent and checks on it. It's a big tent for a scout thing, by the way. Like, those girls could stand up in that tent.
Yes.
Just, having been a Girl Scout before. And knowing what kinds of tents you bring on your campouts.
And the sleeping bags are wrecked. There was no blood.
There was no blood.
Which I was like, I don't think they're doing that to like, oh, it's kids, so we won't do blood. Because like, that didn't seem to be
I thought it was purposeful that there was no blood.
Yeah, I guess. But it was weird that everything was shredded.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
just something I noticed.
It's just how the Gillymuck works, I think.
All the 3 mean girls are gone, and just the little girls there looking down, but standing completely straight up in the back of the tent.
Mm-hmm.
And she's
with her arms kind of out a little.
Yeah, and the Scoutmaster's like, what's going on here? And the girl looks up and her eyes are glowing white. And then she
opens her mouth
and leaps at the Scoutmaster. She has the
Gillymuck mouth, and it's great.
And that's the end. Now, I had a thought.
Yeah?
Do you think that little girl is dead?
Maybe.
Because I couldn't decide because this was a very fake story.
I think it could go either way.
So I wasn't sure if it just killed all of them and I don't know if it's devouring them just because everything was shredded. It was unclear on that one if it just disappeared them.
I think it probably devoured them because the mouth was such a big thing. Like, it didn't show, like, menacing claws or anything like that to show, like, the rippage.
Yeah,
it showed the mouth.
Clearly it devoured them.
To imply, like, the eating, you know?
Yeah, but I don't know if it, like, physically, Grompus, Caterpillar, Jack in the Box, like, swallowed them, or if it kind,
You
like
just said Grompus, not Krampus.
Oops.
That's okay.
Inside stuff.
That's an inside joke.
Or if it, like, fairy, like, quote-unquote, devoured. Like,
I don't know.
But my thing is that the little girl somehow either possessed or infected, or is that just the Gillymuck took her form and ate her like it ate all the others?
I think that it's possessing the little girl because the little girl was the only one who was nice to it.
Yeah, but it's also a monster, so that doesn't always pan out.
I mean, yeah, but the Gillymuck's whole thing is that you want to be nice and respectful to it, you know?
Is it?
Yeah, that's how it seemed to be from the story that the scout leader told.
I know, but I think it's a very horror thing to be like, no, I followed the rules. Be like, too bad, doesn't matter.
That's fair.
So, I don't know. I couldn't decide.
I think that it is,
because it's not good for her to be possessed either. Like, it's
well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I think it could go either way, honestly.
I think it changeling replaced her.
It very well could have.
That's my
We should talk about the box then.
Well,
next.
I will talk about the box. I think I liked the box more than the other two.
Yes, I agree.
But we can get into it.
The box, I think, was actually my favorite.
The box might be my favorite.
Yeah.
Too. No, the hug's my favorite. It's so tough. I got a top three,
hard.
I think. The box starts with a kid in the woods with a wizard hat and a wizard cape and a wand. Mm-hmm. Rolling around. He's just spinning around, but in his mind, very clearly, he's slinging spells at invisible monsters.
And it's beautiful, and I definitely did that as a kid.
Yeah, I know what he's doing because I, too, have done this.
Yes, and it's beautiful. Very relatable.
Yes, and he's just running all over the place without thinking of it. He walks over this salt circle. And
a very thick salt circle.
Yeah, smudges it a little bit. But now he's inside of it, he's running, and he trips over something. And he turns around, there's a box with a very cool design, because it was log, like tree bark texture on the outside, but it also had a hinge, and it was a clamshell box, like a jewelry box, but tree bark, so it looked like a stump almost.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it was
very
great.
Cool.
It was beautiful. But it also had a big old padlock on it that said on it,
Don't break
the circle.
And the kid's like, to that. And
well, I don't think he even got where the circle was.
He didn't stop to go like...
He didn't be like, oh, what circle do I not break?
Mean?
Yeah.
So clearly he's a bad nerd.
Clearly.
Because he didn't bother to read the monster manual.
You know what I bet?
What?
I bet he's a Harry Potter loving wizard and who doesn't know any of the real magic stuff.
The real stuff that's in the 5.0 monster manual.
Or any of the original, like, Celtic Fae lore or any of that shit. He doesn't know any of that shit.
So he picks it up, runs full out of this, and they zoom out, and they show it's a giant salt circle in the woods. Very fresh. So it doesn't matter the story, but I assume somebody's coming by every weekend and spritzing that bad boy up.
And making sure that it stays.
Could have buried that box.
That's okay. Well, I mean, I sort of thought from the way that they framed the shot of the box
just popped up.
That it appeared when it sensed a person there, and that's why he tripped over it.
Yeah,
it's because he didn't see it when he was running, because it wasn't there until he was there.
I bet the box has control of its little circle, like it's got full power in there.
Inside the circle. Yeah, no, I 100% believe that. By the way, the cinematography in this particular one was so amazing. The saturation of color was amazing. The style of the shots was amazing. Like, the opening shot was this, like, turning upside down thing with the camera movement circling around the kid. It was beautiful.
And that overhead shot of the salt circle had to be a drone.
It had to be.
It was too high for a crane shot. Kid runs back, goes home. He's got the box. He's got a nail file and some wire
and a bobby pin.
And he's just Fallout style picking this old timey lock, not making any headway, and he is fiddling with it.
Yeah.
When it pops open, but we both know it kind of just did it on its own.
Yeah.
So
I was like, I know how these locks work, and just going at it with the file and not also like the bobby pin and the file, that's not gonna...
down to me. I've played Fallout. I know you need
no,
a
but
bobby pin and a screwdriver.
I am just saying for the rest of our audience, like, we both know that that's not exactly how lockpicking works.
Yes.
But if you are a child, you might just stick a thing in it and fiddle around with it, trying to get it open.
So bad boy pops open. It has a piece of burnt and tea-treated paper, meant to look old.
It looks like it's written in crayon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like, did they intend it to look crayon, or did they think maybe this will look like blood?
I don't know.
But it's so red that blood doesn't stay that way, so it looks like crayon.
But it does look kind of like crayon. But
definitely looks like a child's writing.
It's 100% a child's writing, especially because the last line of it curves are down around the edge of the paper that's not burnt, which I thought was a good way of being like, oh, children do actually write like this, and when they run out of room, they just curve down the paper.
And it says, where there was one, now there is two.
More or less.
No, what did it say?
It was, where once there was one, now let there be two.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to... See, now you have a doppelganger. Congratulations. You said the incantation. I didn't.
Yeah, but I don't have the box, so they're not going to come after me.
You don't know that. The box just had the spell in it.
Yeah, but I'm not reading from the scroll. I'm just saying the words. The words don't have power unless I give them power. Simple magic.
You just did.
I did not give them power. Those words do not have power over me.
Who's that at the door? It's Doppelmanda.
You have no power over me.
So
magic.
He says it. There's a pause. We've both like, yep, this is a doppelganger or a changeling or
something's gonna happen here.
Night Vale style, kill your double.
Yeah, kill your... I did actually say that out loud while we were watching. It was just like, oh man.
I wouldn't have brought up except
your double.
It is that exact... Which,
it is that exact
again,
thing.
Night Vale doesn't own it. There's all kinds of shit has had doppelgangers and fairy changelings and all kinds of stuff.
There's that new show that's like Counterpart or whatever that has that thing too.
Yeah, interdimensional doubles, time travel doubles.
Yeah, exactly.
He hears
It's funny because you're wearing a Mirror Mirror Star Trek shirt right now too. Continue.
So he hears a knock in his closet and he opens it and there's a little boy there with a
really spooky face.
Yeah,
it looks just like him, but he's got this like evil grimace on his face that's just like, oh, that's not right.
And just dives at him. Cut away to a mom doing laundry. She hears like a bang upstairs. She goes to investigate and there's just a little boy sitting at the foot of his bed that's just very creepy robotically, like, hi, Mommy, read my note. And the mom looks at it and says...
And it's like, oh, where once there was one, now let there be two.
And as soon as she says it, a shadow shows up on the wall in the hallway, and a mom double walks in, and then it cuts.
It was amazing. Oh my god, it was so good.
Because, like, for somebody like me that overthinks stuff, it left it so perfectly open-ended that my mind just immediately shut off in a million places. That the reason I brought Night Vale is because I was like, oh, I wonder if you because clearly the kid killed the other kid, but what if original kid had killed the other? Like, it's clearly a kill your double. Yeah, the survivor gets to be the real one situation.
Yeah. And I definitely thought that it seemed like it was also like a Fae changeling kind of scenario too. Yeah, where it's like maybe
he did stuff the kid like into another dimension magically.
Yeah, like I thought for sure that it's like these are like magic doppelgangers that are trying to specifically take over for the lives of their. Yeah,
clearly
it was amazing. It was so good.
Is the dead kid shoved under the bed, or did he
fall
magic
into
disappear?
A different? I don't know. I don't know.
And then this is clearly going to become an epidemic because the mom's going to give that note to, I don't want to assume, but probably the dad.
Probably the dad, yeah. That was my assumption too, is like, oh, and then like the dad will give it to the boss.
Yeah, take it to work, start making copies of it.
Oh shit, oh shit. But no, this
Mouse.
Was amazing in its simplicity and how complex the story was
without saying
anything, because it gave us so much for our imaginations to work with.
And again, I think this one's tough for us to judge because it is a type of story that we're so used to
and we love so much.
Yeah, that we can fill in a lot of blanks. But to me, like, and I can't judge it as anyone but me, I followed everything. Like you said, it
absolutely
told everything.
Every part of it.
With so little talking.
I mean, I think part of that is because the cinematography was so good and the way that the shots were composed with everything in them just told the entire story through the visual language without relying on dialogue so much. And honestly, that is the case with probably about half of these movies. It's not like half of them rely too much on their dialogue to bring the story across. But specifically, this one, what is the
Rizzle?
The Rizzle? I was going to say the Jizzle, and I was like, that's not right. The Rizzle and Earn all tell so much visually rather than relying on the dialogue, which is my favorite thing about filmmaking, because as a writer who started with prose, I have a hard time straying away from storytelling with my dialogue. And I know that better films don't rely on dialogue so much for the storytelling and will use the fact that it is a visual medium that also has sound to tell the story aside from just the dialogue. Like, it's an amazing art to me that I have not yet mastered, and I love it so much.
And also, there's something that me personally, when it comes to films, I don't like to have things explained to me, and I'm also not afraid to be dumped into a world without an explanation.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to tell me why this thing is this way. Like, as long as it's not, like, too far. Like, Fifth Element is something you never think about. But that's our world just in the future. But they never explain what happened. When did we meet aliens? When did this happen?
Yeah.
Like,
the suspension of disbelief is already, like, set. Like,
I get it.
Yeah.
Or, these are all going to be sci-fi movies because I can't think of horror ones, where like the end of Starship Troopers or the end of The Matrix. There's no definitive ending, but it's this like things will work out.
Yeah.
In time, you don't need that story. That story's boring. The good story's done. So, yeah, and this short's very good at that. Like, it doesn't need to tell the beginning or the end. It tells the interesting part right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to know how the box got in the circle. We don't need to know what happens afterwards. Yeah. All we need to know is how the box was found. And that's the interesting part. And that's the really good part. And it was an amazing movie, and this one was definitely my favorite.
Okay. Well,
do you want to talk about the Rizzle next, or the Urn?
Or
do you want to talk about
spooky, creepy sounds to dance to?
So, the Rizzle.
No, I was thinking horrifying.
Oh, the Horrifying Sounds from Beyond the Grave?
That's the
or
one.
whatever? Okay, yeah.
Which...
I was not the biggest fan of this one.
No, I think it was maybe the second weakest.
Yeah, I agree.
After
Lippy.
I didn't hate it. I think it
was interesting. It had a lot to go on.
One, it has that cool thing I find very eerie of, like, most of the people in stock laughter for sitcoms are dead now.
Yeah.
So those are dead people's laughter, or like the dead people photographs from Haunting in Connecticut. I like that concept of modern-ish media starting to incorporate ghost stories into it. Yeah. Because there's always that delay where you can't... We talk about it in the Haunting in Connecticut. Like, Googling something's not as cool as microfiching something in a library, but it's still more modern than, like, a gramophone. Like, there's that delay to, like, where ghosts can start being creepy in media, or they ruin it too fast. Or it becomes not spooky. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. But I dig... And he gets it on vinyl. Yes. Which I thought was cool.
Well, it was clearly supposed to be set in the 70s based on the...
outfits and hair and stuff.
The outfits, the hair, the recording equipment, the decor in the recording studio. Everything was just screaming like the 70s.
So, this dude he makes weird music, apparently, because
Well, I sort of read him as like what's his name? Like John Cage kind of a dude who is like trying to break the bonds of what is considered music. Yeah. Kind of a thing.
The guy who, his like producer or whatever, who's trying to convince him to make a spooky Halloween track, kind of implies that like, you make weird music, it's not working. Please just do this commercial thing. Yeah. It'll make money.
It'll make you money. You're already really good at this, so...
But he's like, I'm going to make the spookiest thing ever then. And he's like, yeah, sure, that's what we want. So he goes around recording ambient noise. He gets flies eating a corpse. He gets bees, which I'd like to think is an homage to the thing we talk about all the time, which is putting real-life frightening animal noises into...
horror movies to set off your limbic system. Yeah,
which I thought was a cool...
It was very good. But like the whole I'm stabbing into a watermelon to get in
the Foley, which was another throwback to how they make stabbing noises.
I fucking
in horror
loved
movies
all
and
of the
stuff.
Foley stuff that he did. It was very good.
Yeah.
But like it increased. So like it started with like the simple Foley stuff, and then as you progress through it, it's like more and more honest, like this is actually what it sounds like. I'm not recreating these sounds. I am going out there and I am finding these actual sounds.
Yeah.
Thing. I think the on the footsteps on the staircase was like the bridge into that, because that's like a thing that is Foley, but it is exactly what it tries to sound like.
And there's also, even before they get to the scene, they do a voiceover, because this is a montage, and it's a voiceover of him talking to his mom about how he's trying to get something, but it's not working. Nothing's what he wants it to be.
And it's just not coming together.
And then the montage ends with him next to his mom in a hospital bed, struggling to breathe, and clearly, like, not even conscious, like, just dying.
Yeah.
And he kind of sees that she is, in fact,
actively
finally dying. And so he says, fuck it. He doesn't say it, but his eyes say fuck it. And he pulls out his recording equipment and records her death rattle.
Yeah.
And starts mixing. And then he goes back to his studio. He starts mixing it. He starts...
incorporating it into all of the different sounds to get...
And did he hear something in the studio? I know he starts to get freaked out.
Yeah. I don't think... He doesn't start hearing things until, like, that night.
So well, no, he hears... his mom say, how could you? Because he walks down the street and he hears everybody.
That was after the rattling sound at night. So that was the next morning. So like that night he hears someone say his name in his sleep, and he wakes up and he starts hearing the echoes of the death rattle sound of his mother. And it's like creepy nighttime shots, like spooky. And then it's the next day and he's clearly like not slept well, and he's like visibly like anxious walking down the street, and he thinks he hears his mother's voice come out of a young woman's, or like an oldish. You
could say old. She was old.
She wasn't that old. She seemed like she was like
haggard,
maybe in her
horrible
late 40s.
Old lady.
She was not
says
being like, how could you?
And
she's like, what? He's like, what? Excuse me? And she's like, what?
He bumps into a guy, and he's like, are you alright? Well, then, as he walks away, it's like, how could you?
Yeah. Your own mother.
Yeah. So he gets to the studio, and does he pass out there?
He starts, like, tearing up...
That's right, he wrecks it.
The tape from the recording, and then all of a sudden, you can just, like, hear her being like, how could you? How could you, Martin? Your own mother... And then you see him, like, messing with the audio equipment wires.
Right.
And then cut shot to him with the wires around his neck and struggling. Test 1, 2. And, like, that's it's not his voice, it's his mother's voice saying test 1, 2, 3. And during that time, you can see, like, the audio equipment going so that you know it's recording and picking up on the sounds. And you see him struggling, and he's tied up with his hands behind his back, done with the audio cord and all of that. And when she hits 3, he drops.
Yep.
And is hung by his audio equipment. And it's going, and it records his death rattle. And then it's a cut to the vinyl playing at a children's Halloween party.
And they're hanging out, eating candy, listening to it. And one kid has the record cover, and it says...
The Last Breath.
Well, no, it says Death Rattle.
Death Rattle, and then it says The Last Breath of a Hanging Man.
Yeah. Which was... The ending I really loved. That part was very creepy.
Ending was great.
I had a thought. I liked they got hung with audio equipment.
Yes.
This one, I think I liked the concept more than
the execution. I agree.
And it wasn't terrible. I liked it. I liked recording the creepy stuff.
Yes.
What goes into it. And then you get this cool... Left me... I think that the feeling it left me with was better than the short itself. With that, like, well, what if? You know, what if those sounds on a spooky Halloween recording are actually people
real.
dying? What if? Because they're... not to get too off topic, I'll try to tell this quickly.
Okay.
There is a amusement park in, I think, New York that had a haunted mansion type ride kind of thing, those stupid boardwalk ones.
Yeah.
And there is this, whatever. And this movie studio wanted to film in there. And the thing didn't make money because they never do. So they said, fine. So they start tearing some stuff out that doesn't look right to put more stuff in because they wanted it to look good on film.
Yeah.
And there's this crappy dead mannequin that's hanging from the ceiling. And they're like, get rid of that. So the guy grabs it by the arm.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. And it's an actual dead body.
Dead body. And he's got a cool story. They cover it in My Favorite Murder and Drunk History. But the thing is that had a dead body hanging in it for 30 years.
And they didn't realize that it was a real dead body because it was a horror, spook place.
Well, it just didn't look like one because it had been painted and waxed and all kinds of stuff.
But it was an actual, honest-to-goodness, dead person haunting this attraction.
I love that, what if that laugh track's dead people? What if that recording is actually somebody being murdered? Like, what if that spooky Halloween thing over there is actually a body, hung up, It's not a thing that I'm obsessed with, but it is a cool
it is a really neat spooky thing. Yeah, I agree with you.
Which will kind of comes up in we'll do the one that won last, but that does come up in that one too.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So yeah, this one was cool, and it played with. I think it's better for not that we're a horror movie. I almost called us insiders.
We're not insiders,
but we talk about the audio of horror movies a lot, and it was cool to have a little short about that.
Yes. I mean, I know I talk about sound design all the goddamn time. So it was really cool to have a short devoted to, the origins of, the sound design and the Foley for that sort of thing. That being said, the execution was not as great as I was hoping it would be.
It just wasn't... I don't think there's a lot of story there other than...
Plus, the name of it took almost too long to say. By the time you're done saying the name, you're almost done watching the short.
Ooh.
I liked that one.
Well, let's talk about Urn.
Urn is pretty good. Urn, I liked.
Yeah, this was your favorite, so you want to...
Okay, so... well, the box was my favorite.
Okay.
But I did love the Urn.
You're right, I thought the Urn was your favorite. So it starts with the lady standing at a dock, which clearly considering jumping in or not. Do they show the Urn at her feet till she leaves?
No, the Urn's in her hands.
Oh, okay. So she's holding it.
So she is holding the Urn, and she's talking about her mother, and so she is clearly there to dump her mother's ashes, and she's telling this story about how they would go there all the time, and how her mother would hold her hand so tightly that she could feel her mother's wedding ring digging into her hand, which, as somebody who wears a ring all the time, when you hold hands with someone real tight, that is a real sensation that I am very familiar with.
I from the beginning thought she was there to jump. I didn't even
think
really? About I thought she was going in Urn and all.
I didn't necessarily think she was there to jump until we got all of those shots of her feet. No,
I thought that was a suicide content, because my thought was that's not going to kill you, because it was literally like a fishing dock at the end of it's like a short little fishing dock, and you're not going to die, you're just going to get wet.
That's fair. That is quite true. They are not deep right there. But no, I did not catch on to the fact that it was going to be a suicide attempt until we got all of those shots of her toes
teetering off.
Because I thought that she was terrified of her mother.
Yeah,
the whole time.
So
I thought that her mother was going to grab her feet there. I didn't think she was going to necessarily jump.
Well, because then when she says I can't do it, she starts taking rocks out of her
Yes,
pockets.
and at that point I knew that was what that was.
Why do British people think that if you put 4 rocks in your jacket pocket, you will drown?
Sink? I don't know, but that happened in The Boy,
That's
too.
That's what I'm saying. The British people are just like, well, that's 4 rocks.
Maybe it's
4 rocks in a full British breakfast. That's enough to sink anybody.
Well. I mean, maybe that's a popular British method of suicide, and we just
I don't think it would work.
I don't
know. Maybe because I'm a buoyant boy, but they're
all twigs. They will sink. They will sink in wet clothing.
They're weighed down by all that bean and bangers.
And all that wool.
Yeah, it gets so
when wool gets wet, that is so heavy.
The tweed.
Yeah.
The tweed's like iron.
Yeah, when that shit gets wet, that is heavy. So if you put on like a good woolen sweater and
they have no happy
jacket,
thoughts, so there's nothing to keep them up. They just sink right in.
No, why would you bring that up? Oh, I'm gonna cry now.
So anyway, she dumps the 4 rocks that were gonna keep.
Yeah,
her
and
alive.
she's terrified and
yes, and runs back.
But at this point, she has dumped the ashes.
Did she?
Yes.
I did not see any of this.
That's because you were trying to look up the goddamn.
I want to know how much fucking money they spent.
Yeah, but the thing is, with 5-minute things, you have to watch every frame, otherwise you miss shit. That's part of why. But no, she dumps all of the ashes, and there is like smoke from the ashes, like dust in the wind getting picked up off of the thing. And that's why I thought that her mother was gonna fucking grab her and pull her in. Okay. Was because at that point, it was all ashes on the surface of the water.
I see.
And you missed it.
This is like a goth British ghost story, and they bore me.
But that's why it was so weird when she goes back to the car and there were ashes there.
I did see. I saw her put the urn down, and then so she gets to the car. She puts the urn down. She sees a ghost woman in her rear view, and then when she looks down, she gets spooked, and she looks down. The urn spilled over. So I knew the urn spilled on its own. I didn't know it wasn't supposed to have ashes.
Yeah, no, she dumped it empty.
Okay.
And the fact that there were still ashes there, that was like the first instance other than her seeing her like dead mother in the rear view with the breathing tube still in her nose, by the way.
Yes. So then she's desperately trying to
get out of the car.
Well, and first she
tries to put the ashes back in the urn. Yeah.
Then she tries to get out, so I think she's gonna just. Well, I did it bad the first time. I'll do it again. The car door's locked, and then. Which I loved. For a half a second, it looks like snow's starting to fall. And then
it's all ashes,
just sticking to the car,
and closing it out.
Yeah, all the windows start to fill up,
and it starts breaking in with shots of the mother getting asphyxiated.
Yeah, with a bag
in her
over
hospital
her
bed.
Yeah. Yeah, not just like a full plastic bag, like pulled
over her head, and just like completely asphyxiated.
Yeah, just. Disturbingly
yeah,
and so while the memory of hers being suffocated, the woman's getting buried alive in suffocating ash, and then it goes completely black, and she's really freaking out, and then nothing.
She's fine. The ashes aren't actually engulfing her car. Everything's okay. She looks over everything. She like touches her face and makes sure everything's okay, and then she looks down.
Yeah.
And her face just changes.
Which I thought she was having a stroke at first.
I thought that we were going to get a cut to the car sinking in the lake.
Yeah, because she's looking down.
Yeah, she looks down, and I thought we were going to get, like, water seeping in from the car or something.
Because I thought her face was frozen. Because her eyes looked like they were trying to escape, but, like, her mouth was stuck. So I was like, she's having a stroke? And then her hands start coming up.
To her face.
And you'll get the rest of the podcast like this.
What she probably was doing was that she probably couldn't breathe at that point, which is why her face was frozen like that.
See, I thought...
That's why her hands went to her face.
So they were there. So she covers her face. Her nose is still open, which matters because then we see the black hands. But the black hands are...
They're creeping up over her hands.
Yes, so they're over her hands, which is what made me think... her mom was making her cover her face, and then what we don't see is them then covering her nose, and then just so she looks like she just suffocated herself, which is not a way you can kill yourself, but maybe you can if it's a ghost.
But my thought was that there was something that was suffocating her, and she put her hands up.
See, if that were maybe, but if I were to do that, I'd have the black hands already there, and then her hands come up to like feel that. I
mean, yes. But then we don't have the interesting thing with the shot with the wedding ring, with her mother holding her hands, like...
Yes, but that's why I thought...
bringing her through this.
That's why I thought the mom was making her cover her face to kill herself.
Well, regardless, that is the implication.
But what's interesting, and what I was going to ask you about, because you clearly paid more attention, because then they cut, and it's a whole, there's a bunch of cuts. They still kind of show the mom suffocating, they cut back to the car, then they show
water.
They show her at the edge of the dock again. Back when, or maybe not, like still considering jumping in, then it shows water with ripples in it. So do you think, like that clearly, do you think none of that happened, and this was all again like a Jacob's ladder in her head before, whether she jumped in or whether a ghost mom like made her do it, this all happened in her head before she just went into the water?
Maybe. I don't have like a set answer on any of these.
There isn't one.
But I think that is definitely a way that it could be interpreted, and I probably would interpret it that way, especially because earlier on in the film, it shows her drinking alcohol before she got to the dock while she's talking at the dock about the story of her mother. So clearly, like, the shots that we are getting shown are not in the order that they are happening.
Yeah, so I think maybe
I thought maybe my basic understanding of it, based on just the construction of the shots, was that I think that what happened in her head is that she went back to the car, and this whole thing with the spook and the ashes and the strangling happened in her car, in her head.
Yeah. I don't think she even went back to her car.
Yes.
I think it all happened
as
in her
she was
head.
drowning.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. So nothing spooky happened, maybe.
Yeah.
These were just, like, panicked, oxygenless thoughts. Oh.
That was my thought.
Ooh.
Because guilt.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it was clearly implied that she is the one who killed her mother.
Yeah, well...
her mother was basically on her deathbed, but she sped up the process by asphyxiating her.
Oh, I like the idea that nothing
supernatural action. Yeah.
So we were bitching about last time.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my thought. I don't know whether that's my interpretation, because that was what was fresh in my head, or whether that's what actually was the case. But that's what I think happened.
All right, I like it.
Yeah.
So we're on the last one, right? No, we
have to talk about the Rizzle.
Which I think we do in fairly short order.
Yeah.
We're actually running. I wasn't sure we'd have enough time. But
oh, wow.
Longer.
The Rizzle was really good.
Yeah, it was.
I loved that one. That one's another one that relied really well on visual storytelling.
Yeah, it was interesting more than it was. It was just fun. Like
it was a fun, spooky
such an original idea, but not.
It reminded me of the idea of those like creepypasta things.
Yes, it was very.
It was definitely a creepypasta internet thing.
Sinister, which
I'm not familiar with Sinister.
It's another modern, like you watch a video and then the monster is now in your life kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
So it's just a girl. It's clearly late. She's presumably home alone, from the best.
It seems like it. Yeah.
We could tell, and she is for whatever reason on a Hulu, clearly supposed to be streaming service, watching silent film jazz dancing. Specifically
Charleston, yeah.
Yeah, which is not a thing people, well, other than you do.
I have a little bit of an excuse because I work in a 1920s household, so like knowing about the Charleston, I want to be prepared for the Charleston contest at the contest at the next Crane Estate Roaring 20s party. So like, you know, clearly this is what this girl was doing, was brushing up on her 1920s Charleston for the Crane Estate.
Well, that would explain. So she's watching these videos, and then one pops up that says The Rizzle, and she watches it, and it's just kind of spooky. They do a good job of, it's clearly
intending it to be shot as though it was in the 1920s, so it's like kind of skippy because the film is old, and like the sound is not great anymore, again because the film is old, and
at the bottom it just says do the Rizzle if you dare.
It's a little bit more complex. I think it is specifically hidden on purpose. So the way that it works is that it's that way of doing like the text break thing where it goes underneath the read more thing, so that you have to choose to read it before you get the information. So I think her choosing to click the read more to get the thing was her first mistake.
Okay. Because
she played herself into those hands. But so essentially on the video there were no views, no likes,
views, updated by anonymous.
Yeah, and like creator like not applicable, like
no information.
Nothing.
And she kind of leaves it alone, and then it cuts back to her trying the Rizzle, which immediately I'm no longer spooked because I am not susceptible to this at all. Because if something was like, try a dance, be like, nope, and then I X out and go to Reddit.
Yep.
I'm done here. But Amanda is, apparently.
I am the kind of person who would be like, that looks really neat. I'm going to give that a try and show off at my 1920s party.
So she does a little Rizzle.
And then she goes to bed.
Yeah, and then she goes to bed. And
she wakes up at like 2:22 in the morning.
And her laptop is on. It's cracked a little bit.
And it's playing the Rizzle music.
So she opens it. Music's playing.
There's
the
no
gentleman is gone.
Gentleman.
And then she hears a stomp stomp.
A tap tap.
Yeah, you're right. A tap tap.
A tappity tap.
I mean, he was stomping a little more.
I mean, yeah, but in tap
for the
shoes.
Menace. Yeah. And so she opens the door and so tap tap and a tap tap, and it's going with
the Rizzle
music. And what's very cool is that and I don't know the terminology, they don't show this entity, but in your head you can see it doing that, like the step forward, that I don't know what it's called, but in tap where you do that, like front foot forward, back foot follows, like tap 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 tap.
Yeah.
And they like there's nothing there. Just the way the camera works, the sound works, and the music works.
You can tell. You can see the dance moves in your mind.
Stomp, stomp, stomp. Just getting closer and closer and closer.
I mean, it helps that it shows the way that the Rizzle dance goes so much.
Yeah, a little.
So, like, you get the idea of what is happening.
And then
out
of the
shadows, the door closes.
That's right, it closes
behind her, and she can't get back into her room. So she is now like in this hallway alone, and is continuing to hear the Rizzle music playing from the computer in her room.
And then from the shadows is the gentleman dancer,
who is still all crackly and black and white, like 1920s film. And approaching her doing the dance. And she screams.
Yeah, and once he gets right up in her face, there's a very quick half second of like
everything else is black and his eyes and the mouth.
Well, it's like a demon face.
Yeah.
Like not like.
But it's that like spooky.
It's just
smile.
shaded very well to look monstrous. Like there's nothing there to be monstrous, but I think the absence of
the other features
makes you fill it in with horror. And
then it goes back to her bedroom where you see the TV screen thing on her computer. And where there was no one before, there she is. Dancing in the suit.
A smile.
Doing the Rizzle. A forced smile. You can see in her eyes.
Well, that's eye acting is very, like, compared to the terrible, terrible actresses from Lippy, she's smiling and her eyes are acting horrified. So she's phenomenal.
Yeah. No, she was really good.
And that's it. That was the Rizzle. Like, great. Yeah.
Don't forget the fact that when it cuts away at the end, it showed her face doing the demon-y thing, which was amazing. It was very good.
That one was just a creepypasta. Like
basically, that was straight up what it was. But I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it too.
I liked the box better, but this one was definitely the contender for my second favorite.
Yeah, and for such a out there, for something that seems so silly, like a creepypasta, like so silly and modern, but done so well.
The Rizzler! Woo!
Yeah.
But it was great.
Like, well, fuck. It spooked me good.
It did. Honestly, it was very well done.
Yep. And the winner, which I don't know if it should have won. Although I don't know who would have beat it. Because anyway.
That was called Carved.
Yes. And they spend a lot of time that they didn't need. That's what was so weird for me.
Well, I mean...
So it opens
I liked where it spent its time. I think that they did a good job with it.
Okay. Well, it opened, I guess, to show the whole...
The spook.
The horrible life of a pumpkin from the beginning. Maybe. Yeah. So it opens at a pumpkin patch. There's a crow who is our main character.
Yeah. He's our special shouty boy.
Yeah, hanging out in a scarecrow. So, not working.
Yep.
And there's a country bumpkin.
With a nice big beer belly.
Yeah, and some false teeth.
Yeah, clearly false, teeth. Crooked teeth.
Is in a pumpkin patch, just slicing off their stems. these are great looking
These
pumpkins.
are beautiful pumpkins.
And he's just chunking them into a wheelbarrow and bruising the shit out of them.
The entire time we were just like, what are you doing? Oh my god, you're gonna bruise those beautiful pumpkins.
They show it, too.
And they do.
They
are
put
bruising.
bruising on the pumpkins, which I thought was a cool touch. And yeah, just chucking them in. And he finds this creepy pumpkin with a creepy face already grown into it.
Yeah.
And he can't get his shears through it. And I thought for sure when he popped the stem his like neck would break or something.
Yeah.
But no, he just was tough.
But the gorgeousness of the sound design with the crow.
Yeah, the crow's freaking out the whole time.
The crow was freaking out, and the cawing got faster and more intense the closer he got to actually
which is
cutting
why I
the
thought
stem.
like just like his jugular would snap.
Something was gonna happen. Something was supposed to happen.
But it did not. It was
but then all the sound stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like one of those like false tense moment things where you're just like
and that
and then you go to the pumpkin patch.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of pumpkins stacked up, and there's a family looking at pumpkins, and Crow Boy's back, and
and he's watching the family.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't get this pumpkin," but nobody speaks Crow, so they don't know what's going on. And the kid doesn't like any of these pumpkins. Also, Bumpkin's still there.
Yeah,
Pumpkin
is the one who's selling the pumpkins from his pumpkin patch.
And the kid is unimpressed by these pumpkins and sees over by the trash can there is the creepy face pumpkin. And he walks over and he's like, "I want this one." And then the dad,
foppish modern dad,
yeah, I really
with the sweater vest and the turtleneck,
yeah, suburban dad.
It was, oh god, that costuming was fucking amazing.
And so is his acting. So the kid's like, "I want this one." The dad's like, "That one's gross. What about?" And before he can even finish, the kid says,
he does say, "That's disgusting," which is important for later.
Oh yeah, you're right. And the kid's like, this one.
And then the crow starts going at him.
Yeah,
again.
like, shut up, kid. But no one
I thought
listens.
the crow was agreeing with the kid.
Well, you think he was working for the pumpkin. So
yeah,
I thought
exactly.
the crow was a warning crow.
Yeah. Well.
But, so the dad's like, "All right, we'll take this one." His acting was so, like, cheesy, but it worked.
Yeah, he was like, "All right."
It worked.
Like, "My son, oh, what a scamp. Sure, we'll take this one."
But it worked super well with what the movie was doing, I thought. I did like the cartoonish acting. Because the whole family...
I just like how horrified the mother and the daughter looked at the kid throwing this temper tantrum.
Cuts to a montage of them carving pumpkins.
The other pumpkins.
Yeah, they bought like 30 of these fucking things.
They didn't buy 30. They bought 4. They bought one for everybody.
There was definitely more than 4 on that, like, pumpkin sacrifice altar they had.
They carved 3. They put 3 out.
That was what they showed, but there were, So anyway, there's a stack of 80 pumpkins. And with the family's, like, just stabbing into them and ripping out their pumpkin guts. And then just showing...
And this pumpkin is watching the entire thing.
Yeah, it's positioned so it's watching this, like, display of... But they like, the way... The Foley work of the sound effects and just showing, like, the knife gutting into the pumpkins.
And, like, some of it is just, like, done in slow motion so that you really get the, like,
pumpkin
gruesomeness of it.
And then the family leaves and the dad looks at the spooky pumpkin, which you don't even need to carve. It clearly has done the work for you.
Yep. And then it's like, "It's your turn, blah, 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 blah."
And he picks the knife up to stab down, and a green vine tentacle wraps around his wrist, and then his other wrist, and then his neck. Mm-hmm. And the family hears a noise and is like, "What's that?"
And then they come in and they scream, and then you don't see the rest of the dad, but you see his arms splayed out, and the rest of him is like, the view of him is covered by what you see of the back of the pumpkin, who then turns around, and oh my god, it's an actual spooky face.
Yeah, the one that we couldn't... I think is practical, but
I think that it looked like it was CGI.
I thought it
because the fluidity was way too good.
Well, that's why I think it won, because it's not the best story, but their effects
were amazing.
To get CG that looks as good as that does is so
you think it's too expensive to
versus getting puppetry that looks that good is still impossible, but like. If you get the people that can do it, they can do it, and it's not that expensive. person. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. The way that it looked to me, and like the shading and stuff, I thought it looked like bad CGI.
I thought it looked great. I thought the CG would have been too good if it was CG.
Maybe.
It could be a mix, too, because that's another...
That is another thing that they could have done.
If you mix practical and crappy CG, it still looks good, because the practical base...
What they probably did is they did a base in practical effects to get, like, the movement down, and then covered it with, like, a CGI face that had, like, the movement sensors.
Maybe. I don't... But anyway, the family screams, you get some noises, and then cut to Halloween night, there's kids running around. And then these kids go up to
the house, and there are a set of stairs before you get up to, like, the main house. And on the set of stairs, there are, four jack-o'-lanterns? And the one on the very top stair, you only see it as a silhouette at first, but that's clearly not a pumpkin and has hair. And then it's cut back to the kids who say, "That's disgusting!" And mirrors the thing at the beginning.
Exactly.
And then you zoom in on it, and it's the dad's head that has been
out.
Beautiful. Oh my god, it's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's disgusting, but it's gorgeous.
Pulled back open, so his teeth are all on display. His eyeballs are popped out, and
but like
so
the
empty skull.
The eye sockets, it looks like they were cut open to reveal the entire socket in the skull, and then like the nose had a cutout.
Yes.
But then the way that the mouth was done was amazing. Because it wasn't just like draw the lips back, but it was cut into the mouth and the cheeks. Not so far as to reveal the inside of the skull, but just enough so that all of the teeth were on display. And it was really well done.
Yeah. And then behind the kids, the pumpkin tentacle monster pops up and then cut away.
Yeah, it was very good.
So like I think as far as effects go, it was the best, but I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. I think my favorite...
It definitely did not have my favorite story, and it was not the one that was the most compelling. It did have the best effects, so like I understand why it won, and it was another one of those that was simple enough to grasp that like it did have a good story, and it was told really well. It did pack in the most story, I think, of all of them. It told the best story in the best way, with the time that they had, I think. And, like, it was very well crafted with the visual language and utilized character design as well as costume design in a way that the other ones simply did not. Like, from the bumpkin to the dad with, like, the beer gut on the bumpkin and the false teeth that looked like... And, like, his haircut even. Like, the dad's haircut compared to the bumpkin's haircut to just show off the difference in status and monetary value. And just, like, the sets that they chose. And they must have spent a good deal of money getting a crow. Honestly. Like, to get, like, a trained animal for that must have cost them a lot.
So.
But, yeah.
I think this is 8 films, and I think our bottoms are going to be very similar.
I think so.
Lippy is 8.
Lippy is definitely number 8.
I think my number 7's... I'm trying to remember all of them.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to do spooky, creepy sounds.
Yeah, same for me.
To live by. Mucklepug, Grufflebug, Hufflepuff.
That one.
Okay, so five I think for me is Grufflebug.
The Snugglebug. The Wumplewug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wifflepoof. Wimbledon.
No. And then let's see. Oh my god, it's so hard to rank them.
I know,
because I liked them.
All right, regardless, I think I have my top 3.
Okay, I think the hug is kind of down there.
For me, number 3 is the hug, which I know might not be the same.
I don't think it's the same for me. Every time I think about them, then they all go out of my head again.
I know.
That's the difficult thing. Do you have the list of them still?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think The box was my favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna count down.
Okay. Gillymuck.
Yeah, Gillymuck. So, Lippy is the worst. Then I'm gonna go with Horrifying Sounds. I'm gonna go Carved. I didn't like it as much. Then Gillymuck. Then for me, The Hug, and The Box.
You didn't put the Rizzle in.
Oh, Rizzle's 2. Then Rizzle in The Box. So, my top 3 are The Hug, Rizzle, and The Box.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, Lippy was my least favorite. Then Horrifying Sounds. Then Carved. Then The Hug. Because I liked the Gillymuck more than The Hug.
Yeah, I just like animatronics.
I know you do. Like that's your bias, and that's fine. Then for me was the Gillymuck, the Rizzle, The Box.
Okay, so we was the same top 2.
Yeah.
All right. So this has been an experimental episode. So hopefully now we'll be able to cover more anthologies and short collections.
Mm-hmm.
But that has been 2018's Huluween Film Festival.
Overall, very good.
Yeah, the whole thing.
They did
great.
an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, across the board, great cinematography, great sound design, really, really fantastic character design, and just like so good.
Yeah, and each one doesn't take up a lot of time commitment, so if you want to check them out.
Yeah, you should definitely check them out. They're each only 5 minutes long, so we just sat down and just watched them all in one go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, we would be really curious to know what your order for these would be. So if you want to put in the comments your rankings for these, we would be happy to talk about that. So please do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, there's a lot of weirdos out there, you guys.
So we're not alone.
Goodbye. Happy New Year!
New Year's Wolf.